Good morning and welcome to Back on Our Feet for Business, Trades and Professionals. MPDC's Back on Our Feet plan is about helping households and businesses hit by the COVID-19 economic storm. We have a proposed package of projects worth about $20 million and we're now asking for feedback on these. And today's webinar is going to be introducing and having a conversation around that. My name's Adam Harris. I'm a professional external MC, and today I'll be working with the technology, but also just going through the conversation and questions. So a couple of things I just want to point out to you. On your top right-hand corner, you'll see something that says either speaker view or gallery view. This will give you the opportunity to toggle between all of the panelists or specifically the person that's speaking at that moment in time. The other thing that you'll notice is that you have a chat box. If you could open the chat box and click down where it says where you've got the blue banner, and if you click down and put there all panelists and all attendees. And the first thing I'd like you to do is to just put your name and where you're from in the chat box. This will give everybody, including panelists and attendees, to know who's on the webinar this morning. The other thing is that you'll notice that there's another thing that says Q&A. This session really is about questions, answers, but also thoughts and opinions. And I really want to encourage you to put your views and opinions across. So if you can open the Q&A box, and as and when you feel appropriate, please just put in your questions and comments in there so that we can discuss that through today's webinar. And then the other thing is, I just want to tell you about is that we'll be launching throughout the webinar a number of different polls. This will give you the chance to answer some questions that we want to put up so that we can get some feedback coming through. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to the Mayor, Neil Holdom, who's going to introduce and give us some input this morning. Neil.
Thank you, Adam. Tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi nui. Welcome everybody. My name is Neil Holdom, and look, thank you for giving up your valuable time to be here today. This session is really about hearing your feedback on the proposed COVID-19 relief package that New Plymouth District Council has prepared as a draft and we'll be looking to finalise next month. We want to know what you think and listen to what you have to say. Your feedback is going to help inform that decision-making process as we finalise the yearly budget, which commences on 1st of July. I want to start by thanking everybody for helping our region smash the COVID-19 curve. It's really exciting to get that report last week that there were no active cases in Taranaki, and that just reflects the discipline and combined efforts of our people. So thank you all. In Taranaki, we have done a great job of looking after each other, and so as far as we know, there is no COVID-19 in our region. And you know, this is really exciting. I know that for a lot of, particularly our those people with medical conditions and our senior citizens, it's been a real worry, and I think a lot of that worry has been addressed. But we've got to continue with the discipline, follow the protocols that have been put in place to ensure that we don't have a second wave. I'm just going to briefly talk about the national budget because I think it's relevant that we consider the context that we're operating in. I think we all, the vast majority of us agree that our Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, has led from the front and really given the world an example of a textbook approach to crushing the curve. And then yesterday we saw our Finance Minister come out in an environment of acute uncertainty and develop a budget which I suppose lifts to support New Zealanders to maintain employment, but also gives themselves the ability to adapt over the next sort of 6 to 12 months, because they haven't allocated the full amount of the budget, which is appropriate, because planning right now and locking in everything right now in this time of uncertainty wouldn't actually be a prudent approach. The budget is a win for people wanting to get back to work and training up the next generation of tradies, with investment in education and in infrastructure. In the coming months, we're going to face the biggest economic recession of our generation. Along with the rest of Taranaki, I look forward to seeing the finer details around the budget's infrastructure package, and also, you know, how that flows through to our region. It's also great to hear that nearly $500 million of shovel-ready projects have been considered, and we're just waiting to see what comes back. We've put in about $321 million worth of applications for our Three Waters network, 108 million on improving roads and bridges, 37 million on an eco-friendly hydrogen-powered thermal dryer at our wastewater treatment plant, and 13.6 million to continue work on the Taranaki Traverse Walk. A key part of the role in council and my role as mayor is advocating for Taranaki on the national stage, and so I'm off to the Beehive next week to knock on some doors with my begging bowl and seek some support from government. So now, look, I'll talk about the specifics of New Plymouth District Council's budget, and there are a couple of slides that will just give you some of the context. We're really keen to hear, as I said, your feedback on this. First of all, we don't have the ability to print money like central government, and any debt we incur over the next 12 to 24 months will have to be paid back by ratepayers over the next few years, and eventually by our children. So our yearly budget has been revised because the COVID-19 economic shock includes, we expect about 5 to 6 million of direct revenue decrease to council, but also when you factor in the airport, potentially around $10 to $12 million worth of reduced income over the next 12 months. So as a result, we trimmed our rates forecast for the coming year, and we've proposed a rate increase just slightly more than half of what we'd initially proposed, and it flows through to about 2.5% for the average home, or just under $60 a year. And that sits on a backdrop of an operating budget of council of around $175 million for the year ahead. Our Back On Our Feet plan already included $8 million worth of rates relief package, and that was about saying we know that working capital is critical to businesses, so those businesses that are in financial difficulty have the ability to defer paying rates for the next 12 months, and then to start and pay those deferred rates off over the following 2 years. We also put in $165,000 to Venture Taranaki to support small and medium-sized businesses with advice, and we're fortunate that our amazing Taranaki professional services organisations matched that funding, so that any small business now can access 4 hours of free advice on everything from financial planning, human resources advice, or marketing, or other professional services. And there's been an incredible take-up of that advice, and we really want to acknowledge the support of our local business community in making that happen. We've also invested $1.9 million in the airport loan, because as we know, that airports airports and airlines are the businesses that have been impacted the most viciously, as well as obviously the tourism, accommodation and the hospitality sectors. We want feedback on 5 more parts of our proposed package, and that's around our buy local. So you'll be aware that we've proposing giving Taranaki contractors and suppliers an advantage when bidding for MPDC jobs, and potentially what we're looking there is providing a 10% weighting that would favour a local provider over and above an out of district provider. We've also proposed expanding what was traditionally our home energy or home efficiency retrofitting project by adding in greener options, including solar panels and water storage, and while it already includes insulation and things like heat pumps. So that proposal could potentially inject about $7.5 million into our economy to keep our tradies busy, and so we're interested in feedback on that. We've looked at slashing fees for local businesses, including restaurants, hairdressers, cafes, and builders, and that will come at a cost of around $1.3 million. And we're also looking, because we know that our non-profit sector is going to take a real hit over the next 12 months. So we've looked at giving faster access to boosted community funding for grassroots groups, about $450,000, because we know that they're providing services to the people, our most vulnerable, and they are going to experience some challenging times ahead and significant increases in demand for their services. We're also looking at topping up property owners to enhance our Main Street buildings. So we've allocated around $50,000, which will help people tidy up their buildings. And while it's not a huge amount of money, it just reflects that we're trying to work with those building owners to ensure that, one, we sort of maintain our heritage, but two, that we ensure that our buildings across our towns are tidy, they look good, and that those building owners know that we're working to support them. So really, look, that's a high-level summary. I expect that you may have seen some of the information in the newspaper and other areas, but really this is the opportunity for you to provide some feedback and your thoughts about how we could improve, what it is we'd missed, and what other things you'd like to see from us over the coming year.
Fantastic, thank you, Neil. So you'll also notice that the first poll is up. I'll leave that open for a minute or two before we carry on. Please keep on encouraging the questions and the comments to come through, whether that be in the chat box or within the Q&A. This is a great opportunity to just go through. So I'm going to start off with the first comment that's coming through. Having watched the video of the extraordinary meeting last week, I fully support the preference to local business. I'm surprised there is no reference to sustainable procurement and supply chain traceability. This is best done via local procurement. Any comments? So I'm going to start with you, Richard. Any thoughts and comments on that, please? You want to unmute yourself, Richard?
Hi, Richard Handley. I'm a third-term councillor and chairman of Finance, Audit and Risk. Comments on the panel on the point you just made. I think there was some surprise there wasn't some further tracing done, and I mean, I don't fully understand the question. Perhaps we could ask for further clarification, Adam.
Okay.
Well, look, I can answer that question because it's one that Kevin's been asking for about a year.
Okay. So
just to be clear, Kevin has actually done some work for council on this matter, and what he's saying is why or can we implement his policies? I think it's a really specific question, but in general, council is looking to improve its environmental performance and its sustainable supply chain management. The issue, and I did answer this question the other day, Kevin, is that one of the things about traceability and supply chains is it requires businesses to have very sophisticated information systems, because to trace every item that goes into the provision of their product or service requires that level of sophistication. So there are some businesses that we deal with that no doubt have that ability. There are some other businesses that probably don't have those systems in place. And so I think the thing with council is we don't want right now to add a whole lot of administrative burdens for suppliers wanting to do work for council. I think over time we'd absolutely like to get there, but I think to ask people to put in place those systems right now, when really what we need or what they're wanting from us is to access some work, to go out and do a really good quality job, and then to get that money in their bank accounts. I think that's the focus. And then the improvements we can look at over time, and you know, where people can go out and improve their systems. And maybe Kevin's looking to tout his services to those businesses, but I'm not sure that this is the right place to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Amanda, just could you just give us a little bit more of an indication as to the aspect of shovel-ready projects? What are classed as shovel-ready projects?
So the Crown Infrastructure Partners, on behalf of the Crown, have come out with quite a clear set of guidelines around what are shovel ready. And it talks about, there are different tranches of different levels of shovel readiness, if you like, and talk about time frames, where things are at in terms of consenting processes. And so those, as well as a number of other criteria. And so those have all fed into our decision-making process in terms of which projects that we put forward that are shovel ready, that can, basically we can hit the ground running and start generating jobs as soon as possible.
Okay. Murray, if I could come to you, with 136 billion pounds worth or dollars worth of applications for these shovel-ready infrastructure projects, do you have any indication of how much Taranaki might receive? Do you want to unmute yourself, Murray?
Yeah, I'm figuring around, you know, your 20 to 30 million based on our population. The problem is with the shovel-ready projects is, you know, they require a lot of labour to get them going. I mean, if we get 20, that's a $40 million project. You times that over all the councils that are applying for the same amount of money, and therefore all the workers needing to build these projects. I think the biggest thing is shortage of labour, and I think the attitude by the average people, there are a lot of people out there that choose not to get into the labour force because it is hard work, and I think their attitudes needs to change, and I think our unemployment based on that will go down, but the attitude realising they need to get into trade rather than services, I think that's the big key in this whole process.
Okay, thank you. Morning, Harry. Do you want to unmute yourself? Is there anything you want to add on to that at all, please?
Good morning. I'm sorry to be late and difficult to get in. I think there's a number of projects that are already on the go, which will cause us some issues in terms of labour supply, but companies are working very hard to sort that. I also think that it's such as the hospital and other projects around. There's been a lot of talk about, you know, will we be able to gear up? We've done it in the past very successfully, and I think it's likely that Taranaki businesses will use their usual innovativeness to you know, get round issues. And I also know that WIT is working very hard right now to gear up. So I think we will have some challenges, but I'm really confident that we will have some really good projects that come out of this in the time ahead. And I think the government is very prepared to work extremely hard and to use an innovative approach to get things going, to keep things going.
Harry, just picking up on what you said there about WIT, can you just give us an idea of what they're doing to kind of scale up?
Well, already there's been talk in the media of new trades classes, etc. And I know that John has been already talking about the building trades and so on. So I'm looking forward to what they have to announce.
Okay, thank you. Richard, coming to you, question or comment that's come through. I think that the $1,000 to shop owners will go to the architects and surveyors only. Thoughts on that?
Well, I think the $1,000 is to assist the consenting process. It's council saying we can help here too. Consenting process can be expensive and can take a little time. I'm not at all sure it's going to go to architects and consultants only. This is a council assisting with the first $1,000, and I think it's a reasonable contribution, I guess.
Okay, Amanda, where and what would you be suggesting that people should be using and spending that money on, or does it not matter how and what they spend the money on?
Sorry, I'm just not clear on what $1,000 we're talking about. Are we talking about the facade upgrade for buildings in the main centres, or are we talking about the resource consenting?
Yeah, resource consenting, I think.
Resource consenting, right. look, I really think that that's up to the community and the people who are doing that development. You know, people who are doing that development know their business best, and where those extra funds or extra available funds might best be spent. I guess what we're trying to do, and again, we're looking for feedback on this, rather than you know, saying that this is a done deal. Absolutely. So if you've got feedback, please do send that through if that doesn't feel right. But you know, what we're basically wanting to do is to allow the stimulation of the construction industry, to ease cash flow where we can, and to encourage more activity to take place so that more jobs are provided.
Yeah. So a comment that's come through, suggesting a better outcome than the 1,000 would be faster consent processing by council officers. Murray, you're nodding your head. Can I come to you on that one?
Yeah, the $1,000. Yeah, I mean, we can get the builders there, and as I said in my last comment, it's about getting the workers on the sites. Now, it's not as easy as just someone wants a job and go to a building industry and they can go on site. It's training, it's health and safety rules, it's all their safety equipment and all this. Now, what happens is if a builder wants to grow, those costs are a huge cost, and even setting up tools for a builder, you know, it could be a couple of $1,000s. You know, someone has to pay for that, and sometimes that goes on to the business owner. But all I'm saying is $1,000 can be put towards training, health and safety tools, equipment, and safety gear for the people that are actually a bit gullible, or a bit not gullible, or a bit you know, they don't know the full process. They need training. So I think to get the builders on site and the construction workers, I think the $1,000 is better to be spent on gearing up the new workers. I had a bit of feedback by someone saying, you know, to lower the resource consents isn't really a place which will make a difference, because the building industry is going to take off, and they'll just put that within their costs. The biggest thing is like I say, it's taking off, but it can only take off as fast as the people that can do the work. And I don't think lowering the consents will actually make much of a difference at all. It's actually finding the money to train the new people that don't know the full rules, because that's the health and safety thing, and that's what's pushed on all sites these days.
Okay. So there's been a couple of comments and questions come through with regards to kind of the energy aspect. Question that came through: if you're looking to better your environmental performance, why is there no one creating an energy efficient, high performance transitional direction pathway for all further development? Neil?
Sure. So I'm not kind of sure. Is this a view? Because I saw that this is from Kath Ford around. Are we looking to hire an MPDC staff member to guide industry and investment? And I mean, my understanding is that that one of the things that we do in council is focus on what our core business is, and our core business is primarily managing the built infrastructure, roads, footpaths, parks, sewage, water, wastewater, libraries and aquatic centres. And we all pay taxes to government, and they've developed an organisation which everybody knows, which is EECA, which is the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Authority, and they've set up an energy framework, and this is, you know, that's their core business. And so we've been working with government about actually saying to them, well, you know, as part of this Taranaki transition, Taranaki 2050, why can't you bring the likes of EECA up here? You know, why pay the high costs of running offices in Wellington and put them alongside our National New Energy Development Centre, put them alongside the industry, and actually create an energy ecosystem? And we also propose bringing the Electricity Authority here. So why doesn't council actually get in and develop these systems? Because we already pay government to do this work, and we're not, you know, we take, I think it is about 9% of the tax take, and government takes the other 91. And we're not looking to climb into the provision of services that people already pay the government to deliver through their taxes. But what we are looking to do is to get those organisations to actually come up here and work with us, because we do have the expertise and the ideas. But the issue for us about Taranaki 2050, the money from government runs out on the 30th of June, and we've had no commitment, and there wasn't anything spelled out in the budget. So we're seeking clarification that government is actually prepared to continue on this investment pathway towards helping Taranaki transition to a lower carbon future. But at this point in time, there doesn't appear to be the political will or the finances coming out of Wellington to support this work.
Murray, you were nodding your head a couple of times there. Anything to add?
No, I won't add at the moment. I'll keep my powder dry.
Okay. A comment came through. Would the council look at hot water heat pumps as part of the energy efficiency programme? Harry?
Yeah, as you know, I've been a very strong advocate for this for some years. Hot water heat pumps are a good technology. I have some experience with them, and I have to say that they're not as durable as they're made out to be. However, any new technology does have a bedding in time. I think it's part of the deal, and we are already involved in, of course, the whole area of providing insulation and providing perhaps even solar generation on rooftops and so on might be a good future direction. Council's put some money towards this in the recent budget, and we can work with government, I think, to make a big difference for those homeowners who don't have the cash to do it themselves but can afford to pay the targeted voluntary rate, and thereby get their homes upgraded and have quite a positive outcome on their finances in the end. I think it's a win-win.
Harry, is there anything particular that the council have discounted, or is there a process of thinking that what is and what isn't included?
I think this is a bit of a moving feast, and as new technologies come on board, I'm sure that council would have a view to looking at those technologies and saying, is this viable for us to have as part of our scheme, just as we have with insulation and now with solar heating and so on.
Okay, so another comment that came through: modern heat pumps are great, energy efficient, and could help households get off gas. So good to hear the council support for it. Water storage in the form of water tanks is great also. Would council support installation of grey water capture and reuse? Rooftop solar panels on homes are good too, but won't help a great deal with peak demands. How about council support for larger structures like council buildings, schools, supermarket car park roofing, or communities, etc., to have solar panels, EV charging and battery storage and smart grid, which could help deal with peak energy demand? So there's quite a lot of points there. Richard, thoughts on that?
Well, the current provision that's made, I think 7.5 million is for homeowners essentially, and it's for warmer and greener homes. We haven't considered and we haven't discussed at all the extension of those services into business. I suspect that's something that councillors might be interested in, but at the moment we don't have provision for that.
Amanda, thoughts on kind of, the electric battery, the wall chargers, whether that be for kind of home use or business use?
Yeah, so the current proposal for the Sustainable Home Scheme is really broad. So it talks about energy efficiency in homes, which can be for insulation, which has already been covered, but also for things like double glazing for draft stopping. There have been a number of inclusions articulated, but they're not sort of full list. So as Harry says, it can be a bit of a moving feast. So we're talking about energy efficiency, we're talking about solar, which includes electric vehicle charging stations as well. So that's included in the policy already. So is our water conservation system. So we're talking about grey water as well as rainwater. And the other part that's also included is food sustainability. So if you're wanting to start an orchard or provide your own home with more food and grow it at home, and that's also included. So it is quite a wide-ranging policy as it stands at the moment. And I think there is room to move to include some more things under those umbrellas. And an interesting point as well to look at, perhaps we could expand it to business. That's a really interesting suggestion.
Harry?
It's worth adding too that in the, I don't know, 7 or 8 years since I first mooted this on council, technology's moved a lot. And the recent developments in heat pumps, for example, which are capable of not only doing the hot water, but also central heating for a home, you know, that's a whole new ball game, and we should be open to all these ideas.
Murray?
Yeah, I'm a fan of the solar as well, and I really pushed for that. What people don't realise, and there is a good movie, I won't say the name of the movie, but there is a good movie out at the moment that actually says commercially, you know, it's actually using more energy creating these new systems, and we're calling it green. I think what people, the biggest seller of anything with people is what's in it for me. And if you do the numbers, you know, personal solar generations on houses is a little bit better than the commercial on buildings. And we need to look at that. Everyone needs to do the numbers. I think I'm the only councillor that has got a solar system very similar to the ones we're offering. Mine was a now $8,000 system. And it's worked very well for me. And so it's all up to the individual, but this is a very exciting thing. If rather than have our rates, you know, freeze on our rates, it's actually better for certain people to have a solar system on their roof, and what they will save in generation of free power is cheaper than any rates freeze anyone would get, and that's including paying it off as a targeted rate. So I think everyone needs to do the numbers, and I think the solar generations are one of the most you know, best things that have come out of what we can do to help certain people that sort of qualify. You've just got to do the numbers, but it's really exciting.
Neil, just coming to you, I would sense with the 2050 roadmap that this is something that's constantly being reviewed and discussed quite a lot.
Yeah, it really is, and I think it was in a nutshell an agreement between the leaders of the region and central government to collaborate and to work on this quite innovative approach to developing a strategy, where instead of just a few leaders in a room looking at challenges and coming up with options, that we went right out to the community. We engaged, I think, more than 1,000 people and developed, you know, from the absolute grassroots, but including all of our kind of key sectors, a range of, I suppose, a vision of what the future would look like. And then the sort of next stage has been about saying, okay, what are the specifics that we want to achieve, and then how are we going to do that? And while that's being worked through, it just appears government is looking to step back. And we're, as I say, I'm going to Wellington on Monday to kind of seek clarification, because they haven't specifically articulated that they're going to step away, but at the same time they've not made any financial provisions past the end of June. So I think we'll look to get some answers, and then we're going to have to make some decisions about what happens with that work, because the idea is it was a partnership, but one of the partners isn't really turning up.
Okay. Next thing, I would like to know what is going to happen about short-term lets, i.e. Airbnb. In order for the legitimate accommodation industry to survive, we need to carry through the proposed restrictions to Airbnb. This will help with putting Taranaki people back in homes and more GST back into government to pay off this loan. Amanda.
Yeah, thanks. So this is in response to one of the proposals that's being put out in our district plan, and that at the moment those submissions and the feedback that's being sought from the public is being processed, and that'll come to us in due course. So we'll take that on board and think about that as we're making those decisions on the plan.
Neil, I know that this is something that you commented on before. Do you want to just share your thoughts on this?
Well, look, it's a tricky one because we've got people on both sides. We've got some people in that are in that Airbnb space say that why would you restrict it at all? And then you've got your traditional accommodation providers saying you should. So, I mean, look, my view is my approach to regulation is very light-handed regulation. Though the proposal that there'd be a 90-day limit on Airbnb and those sort of providers was an absolute surprise to councillors. We weren't aware of it, but I don't think we're in a position where we've got a clear view on what we should do, and I think for somebody, you know, to say for everybody that says, right, you need to clamp down on Airbnb to give traditional providers a break, there'll be someone that says you actually, this is the free market in operation. And you know, I use both. My family and I use a range of services. So you know, my traditional response would be that I'm not sure that there's any need to regulate the accommodation sector to pick winners, because on what basis are we choosing one business owner over another? Mm-hmm. But I do think there is an issue about that the Airbnb providers are potentially got a competitive advantage because they're paying a residential rate as opposed to the accommodation sector, which are paying a commercial rate. So I think we're looking at what's been done in Auckland, and I see that they've lifted. They essentially put a bed tax in as a tourism surcharge across everyone, the Airbnb sector and the accommodation sector. We were going to wait and let them use their lawyers and their budget to test any cases, because the Tourism Industry Association was going to sue them and look to have it backed out. Auckland Council has since just backed it out for the year as part of their response. So look, for me, the issue is about setting up an even playing field, that it's fair and consistent. So if somebody has set up a residential home as an Airbnb business and they're generating commercial returns, then I think we need to look at ensuring that they don't have a competitive advantage over somebody that owns a motel or a hotel.
Thank you. Harry, comment that's come through, Airbnb don't pay GST on profits. Anything else that you've been discussing or not looked at?
Yeah, this is an issue that I think creates quite a lot of emotion on both sides. If you're a traditional accommodation provider, you see Airbnb as having a big advantage, but I think a lot of people have gone into Airbnb because, quite frankly, they do not want or see it as a better option for them than having a traditional tenant. And that's what many people have done. As long as they're covering the mortgage, they're getting the capital gain. That's how some see it. Now, I think that Neil's raised, the Mayor's raised a very good point when he said that it should be an even playing field in whatever is done. And people make their own choices, but if it's an even playing field, then they make those choices off the base that is the same for everybody.
Richard?
Sorry, if I could just add something there. Over the last year, we've taken an interest in this area, and I've found that the Airbnb sector, they provide a very good service, and actually they have a good level of self-regulation, and they are very keen on making sure that their service is a high quality and well-disciplined service. The only issue in terms of the district plan provisions that they have some concern about is the requirement to have a resource consent of having more than 60 days in a year. And there's quite a lot of pushback on that, and we need to consider that. But my understanding is that the rest of the provisions are quite acceptable to the Airbnb industry.
Thank you. Just want to let everybody know that we can take feedback on the phone. Call 759 6060. And we've also got a 5-minute survey that you can, if you go into a draw for $500 worth of vouchers to help local businesses. We'll make sure that we put something in the chat box so that you can see and understand where to go there. Just coming to you, Murray, did you have a point there?
Yeah. I find it interesting. There are 6 or 7 different levels of accommodation that we need to be concerned about. We shouldn't just be concentrating on one. Just going from, you've got your expensive hotel motels of $300 to $500 a night. You've got your cheaper type of hotel motel. Then you've got your Airbnb. Then you've got your campsites. Then you've got your certified self-contained that want to go free, and then you've got your non-certified self-contained that want to go free. Now, I know for a fact which one is actually causing the most hassle, which one do we have the most problems with. Shouldn't we be looking at that before we put limits on something that people can experience a nice family Kiwi holiday in a family Kiwi environment house? I say of those 7 options, let the market decide where we want to go. We're wanting to attract as many local people or anyone into the industry on now low budgets, but we really need to make sure we're not being abused and our tourism and the people that come here, aren't costing us, because we don't need that as a council. We're bringing in liability tourists rather than asset tourists.
So if I just piggyback on that then, so thinking about the current situation of the next at least 3 to 6 months, with probably the travel bubble between in New Zealand and then with Australia, what are the council planning to do with regards to encouraging people kind of into the area? Amanda?
So this is the work that Venture Taranaki, that we fund Venture Taranaki to do, and they're working hard behind the scenes on developing both a Go Local campaign, but also attracting domestic tourism to Taranaki. And we're aware that we have actually a really great domestic tourism offering that we've been building up over time. And so, we hope to secure, our fair share of that domestic tourism market, I guess, as people are desperate to get out of their bubbles and out of their cities and go visit places. And I think we've got a real advantage in that we're not often the first place people think of to go on a holiday. And so there will be a lot of people around the country who haven't been to Taranaki or haven't spent a lot of time in New Plymouth. And it's a really exciting opportunity to welcome those people to our amazing district and show them what we've got to offer. And who knows, they might even decide to stay.
Harry?
Yeah, I think there is a growing awareness of Taranaki's and New Plymouth's charms, if you like. I was watching the morning show on television, and one of the presenters actually talked briefly about the Lenlai Centre as a fabulous place. He said you should go to Taranaki if only to see that. Well, I think there's a whole tranche of New Zealanders who aren't familiar with this, and as Amanda said, once they've been and visited, maybe they'll even stay.
Richard?
Tourism isn't as large an industry in Taranaki as it is in other places. I mean, I really feel for Otago and areas like that, but in Taranaki it's 5 or 6% of our total GDP is tourism. So it's quite a minor part of our overall GDP, but nevertheless, it's something that we can work on, I think, and something that we can increase. Of that 5 or 6%, I think about 80% of it is actually domestic tourism. So we've got a base there that we can build on. And as Amanda said, at Venture Taranaki are very aware of this, and it's a part of the buy local, go local domestic tourism thrust.
Thank you. Murray, what's the council's development plan for the revival of the CBD?
Yeah, can I touch on this last article? I wasn't asking you. Yeah, first, and then I'll ask the other question. So the key to that last question was 3 to 6 months. What are we going to do? That's now the problem is we are coming into winter, and a lot of people that do their holidays will wait until summer. They'll write the winter off. However, we have got a group of, and there's groups of 70 or 80,000 people that have usually go away every weekend. They haven't been affected by the COVID-19. Their incomes are still being there. They're ready to go, and I know dozens of this group that are ready to go this weekend. We're talking about what we're going to do in the next 3 to 6 months. Now we had the Lonely Planet, second best second best place in the world to visit. That's damn near 3 years ago, and I don't think, and it took us 2 years to do anything about it, and I still didn't think we jumped on that quick enough. I think we need to jump on it and look at the tourists that are willing to come through winter and are willing to come even this weekend. And we've got some amazing little trails. There's arch trails, there's iwi, Maori history trails and all that. All these people I'm talking about are the Grayson Army. They've all got their own motorhomes, and they've also got battery bikes. And you could do battery bike tours. I'm sure the mayor would do a couple and insist and bike around with these guys and show them. Now we could do every day of the week. We could do a theme of arts, older houses, Maori history, all around Taranaki, and it'd be an hour's bike trail. But they're all got battery bikes. And that's something no other region's doing, and we can do it within a week or two. We're talking about the first 3 to 6 months. If we go generally, it'll be 2 or 3 years, and no one's doing anything. Let's act on this and let's do it now.
So plenty of food for thought there, Murray. Can just move on to that question with regards to the council's development plan for the revival of the CBD?
Yeah, I personally think, and I've always said, we need to look at, they're thinking about giving free parking. However, this is a cost for the council. We're trying to save money. I've always said to battle that, do the first hour free, because that's what other regions are doing, and then $3 an hour after that. So it's offset. So if you want to park there for 2 hours, you're going to be paying, it could even be $4 an hour after that. So if you want to pop in there and do some shopping, it's nothing. But if you're going to stay there for a while, you pay for it, and it can recover the cost. I also think parking should be extended till 7 or 8 o'clock. You'll find that we're not getting any revenue off our street after 5 o'clock, yet the people that go into town after sort of 6 or 7 o'clock, they're the ones that'll go to a restaurant and spend $80 or $90 on a meal. They're the ones I think that can afford to pay parking fees, because you try and get a park after 7 o'clock in town, they're full. They're actually fuller, and the parks are fuller than they are during the day. So I think, to cover the costs of free parking, we just need to extend that parking out a little bit, and that means the retailers as well as the restaurant owners bear the brunt of parking.
Neil, a couple of points that have come through. I attended a forum at Council Chambers a while back that invited CBD business owners to start dialogue of finding solutions, but not sure what the outcome was, how many targets been set, and also what's the plan. Business owners need to see some concrete guidelines so we can collectively work to achieve them.
Sure. So when you go back to those, we had those forums talking about what we wanted to do with the CBD, and what people said to us was, for God's sake, hurry up and get on and do something. So what we did, I suppose, there were a couple of projects that immediately came out of it. One was that we purchased the Huatoki Plaza with a view to opening up the Huatoki stream and creating a connection right from the coast right through to Pukakuta Park. And we pretty much have virtually all of the land that we require to do that. And the other thing was we developed plans for the Huatoki Plaza. We were actually due to undertake the plaza redevelopment over summer, but we had requests from businesses that we not undertake that work during the busy season, and because that was their key revenue generating time. So we put the Huatoki Plaza project off, and I think that there'll be a view that we'll look to undertake that work probably in spring. The other area that we were looking to do, we were actually looking at purchasing the Pararaba building, and looking to put a wrecking ball through it. I'm sure some heritage people would be horrified about that, but with a view to actually putting some investment into the eastern precinct. We're aware that historically there hasn't been significant investment from council, and some of the feedback I've had from building owners as recently as actually yesterday was that it's appropriate that council look to make some investments at that end of town, because the building developers have done a huge amount of work up in that area of town. They've got virtually full tenancies, but the council infrastructure hasn't followed. So we were about to buy Pararubber, but then Andy Hill got wind of it, and he bought it. And I think he's offered to do us a deal and sell it to us at a significant increase in price. But we're probably not going to do that. But we are looking for opportunities to develop some public spaces up there for the people that are, obviously we've got a lot of people working up there regularly, and we do have to support that part of town. The other thing that we are looking to do in terms of those guidelines of what building owners can do, look, we know that there's been a real lack of town planning, and we've instructed our strategy team to come up with a spatial plan, update the historic work that's been done, because in my view there is no real continuity in design in the way that council's made investments over the last 20 years. It's very bitzer. And the classic example of that is that, that abomination of the warehouse building hanging over a block in town, and then you've got various different designs from furniture, street furniture with no consistency. So we've actually set our team the goal of going out and actually creating a spatial design, which we then engage with our building owners so that they can see it, provide input into it, and then we lock it down so that everybody knows what we're doing, and then we can work with building owners so that they create designs and renovations that are sympathetic to the overall design, knowing that this will be a 20 or 30 year design that's not going to be changed every couple of years.
Harry, comment that came through: redesigning the CBD to provide more active transport rather than cars would offer jobs and promote well-being, not more free car parks.
Yeah, I think that always is a challenge. Recently we had quite a substantial debate in council over one car park and a bicycle stand that was being put there. We have tried various options, including bicycle storage lockers and a number of other ways of moving the town forward, moving our approach to public transport forward. We have got the beginnings of quite a good public transport system, but frequency is the major plus of a public transport system. And if you don't have the frequency, people won't use it. Now, build it and they will come, yes, to a degree, but you also need a commitment from people to say, I can do this differently than going by car. And what was really interesting about the last few weeks is the number of people that didn't use their cars and still survived. Now, it was tough and it was different for a lot of people. The couriers did extremely well, but it does show that if you plan, you can do one trip and do a whole lot of things in that one trip. And that's, I think, the move that people have to make before we make some efficiencies in terms of fuel use, in terms of people more actively being involved in their own transport, so walking, cycling, all those things. One thing we did recently was remove the skateboard ban. Council had a debate on that and decided that it was actually not serving its purpose anymore, that in fact the issue had gone away. So yeah, some pluses. We're making some progress. I think the electric bicycle will be the biggest technical development, big difference. And even electric scooters didn't really take off in New Plymouth. The Lime scooter type concept hasn't really taken off in the way I thought it might. So it's a people thing. It's leading by example. Our mayor occasionally is on his bicycle here, there and everywhere. A previous mayor used to go home occasionally for lunch on an electric bicycle. So, those are things that people see, and maybe we'll get a bigger uptake as time goes on, and council will react.
Thank you. Richard, comment come through about it's all well and good looking at kind of getting the facades looked at on Main Street and the parking, etc. But there seems to be quite a number of empty stores. It's hard to encourage locals and more so visitors to come when our Main Street businesses continually to decline. What's being done or what's being discussed around that?
Well, what's offered in this package is a small amount, I think $50,000, to assist retailers in the CBD for their facades and their verandas. So that's the current thinking. I think we're more interested in what our ratepayers might think about that and what they might suggest that we do. I mean, we are, of course, very concerned about the retail business at the moment. There's a whole kind of change going on there. There's a lot of empty retail places that we're concerned about, and we are concerned about, as many retailers keep telling us, about the sustainability of the current retail model. But we don't have the answers to that. We have a responsibility to our CBD in terms of the infrastructure and how we can assist, but how further we can assist, I think we'd like ideas. Let's hear what people think. We don't have the answers. We don't currently have sufficient answers to that question.
Marie, thoughts on redeveloping Main Street and getting more businesses in?
Yeah, I think my biggest concern is them thinking about developing, north of Waikato with new shopping centres. We don't want to end up like Hamilton, where, when you go to Hamilton, you bypass the city and go straight to their huge shopping centre, which is, few k's out of town. Which I think if we have another shopping centre development north of Northgate there, I fear we will get that, and that's my biggest fear in the CBD, that we really need to think, can we hold this back, and it'll be free parking out there, I'm sure, just like it is in the valley at the moment. So I think that's the biggest fear that we certainly need. We don't want to do what Hamilton did.
Great. Final point I want to just pick up on that's just come through. If we're an arts and culture leader in the nation, how about the council financially support local creative and innovative people occupy the empty stores as workspaces where the creative people sell their products? Amanda?
Yeah, a couple of thoughts on this. I think we are working at the moment to pull together a lot of people in our arts, creative arts community to figure out how we activate that community again and respond to a lot of the hardship that has happened already and will continue to happen because of the difficulties of gathering in spaces and enjoying arts and culture in the way that we traditionally have. And so we're trying to facilitate that conversation at the moment. The other thing that I would say is that there's a couple of funds that are available. One is the Creative Communities Fund, which where we have already run those applications and have been waiting until we can convene a meeting to make decisions about that. But there will be future Creative Communities application rounds as well. So I'd really encourage our arts and culture creativity community to apply for those. And other pieces that as part of this package, we're looking at increasing community funding of community organisations by $450,000. And if there's a community element to those arts and culture projects and activating some shops in town, then absolutely apply. And I think there are lots of different ways that we can activate our CBD, and that's one of them. I would just add also in terms of the work that we're doing to activate the CBD. We've got the longer term CBD strategy that the Mayor has outlined. Also, part of the fee slashing package, as part of this annual plan that we haven't touched on yet, is looking at reducing or removing temporary use licenses. So that means cafes, bars, restaurants who need to put tables on the footpath. We're not charging for that anymore. The proposal is that we won't charge for that anymore. Likewise, if you're looking at hosting an event on some of the streets in the CBD or elsewhere, ordinarily we charge for the use of that street closure, and we're looking at removing those fees. So that's another creative way, hopefully, of activating the spaces.
Fantastic. Final couple of points that have just come in. I think we need something to go to town for: street performers, artists, kids programs in the malls, etc. And then the other thing that came through, I think you could start by limiting the number of retailers you allow to open stores in containers or car parks not on our main street. So the time is now done. I want to thank everybody that's attended. We've had some great ideas come in. We've made a note of them, but we still need more. Please go to the survey. It will give us a chance for you filling it out so that we can get more feedback and push forward. The Mayor and the Councillors' decision making, they're going to be looking to make off the final plan at the end of June. You'll see in the chat box there is the survey, the 5-minute survey. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you to the panellists for taking the time. And we've got the next one coming up next week, and we'll send you the link through. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.